Hello, travelers. Welcome to the Copper Fox Inn. Come on in, take a seat, and join us as we discuss homebrew for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. My name is Thomas the Human Bard, and I am joined today by...
Onog the Half-Orc Barbarian.
You're back.
Yeah.
Oh, you're back.
I just went out to get tacos.
It's been so lonely. You're all of you left me for Faerun. It's just been me and
that's
Clancy.
That's where the tacos are. They don't really have good tacos here.
Faerun, famous for its tacos.
Famous for its tacos and nothing else.
Listeners, if you have homebrew you'd like us to discuss on the show, whether you've written it yourself or it's homebrew that you found somewhere, please send it to us by either commenting down below or sending it to our email, thecopperfoxinn@gmail.com, or on social media @thecopperfoxinn. On today's episode, we will be discussing more adjustments from the D&D 5th edition rule set to Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
Last week, or last episode, I don't know. I don't want to use
However
real
long
dates,
ago.
however long it takes for episodes to go up.
When we last posted 3 months ago. Knock on wood.
I talked a little bit about how turn-based mode was influencing my DMing and letting players have a player-facing option to call for initiative whenever they wanted to. Kind of when they want to enact some agency on the world, they can say, I'd like for us to call for initiative now, and not just letting the DM do it. As a way to translate the turn-based mode from Baldur's Gate 3. But that is not the only way, travelers, that Baldur's Gate 3 adjusts the 5th edition rule set. Oh, no. There is at least one other change from the 5th edition rule set. At least one.
At least one. And I can tell you, as a barbarian, a strength-based class, I have been having a blast with it. The jumping rules are so nice.
Yes.
And I never thought I would say this because one of the mechanics that they've changed is that you can't just jump at free will. It takes a bonus action to jump. But they make it worth your while in Baldur's Gate 3.
That's right. Strength matters for something else now, not just your attack rolls. It's actually going to come up. So, on this episode, we'll be discussing the jumping rules in Baldur's Gate 3 and how they differ from D&D 5th edition. Onog, you wanted to talk about this because, as you said, playing a barbarian, it comes up a lot for you. It really changes how you approach, most encounters. You at least, once per encounter, are thinking about jumping. Not just in exploration, but, in combat.
In combat, yeah. I think a big part of this, too, is Baldur's Gate 3 has a lot of set pieces that if you're just playing in the theater of the mind might not exist, in the way that they do, because there's a lot of mobility things that we kind of take for granted in tabletop D&D, that Baldur's Gate is sitting there like, no, the spiritual weapon can only move 20 feet.
So that will matter.
It can't get into the fight if the guy's 30 feet away. So you have to think of something else.
And like you said, with the set pieces, they've obviously designed a lot of the encounters with interesting and varied maps, encounter maps with levels of verticality to them.
If a fight's happening in a tavern,
pits,
if there are bottomless pits nearby, if they're happening in a tavern, is there an upstairs? Are people attacking you from the rafters because they were hiding up there? All of these things, all of this three-dimensional space we're now dealing with that you can say that you're dealing with, but it feels different watching a character jump 30 feet in the air than saying somebody jumps 30 feet in the air.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know about it.
There's a huge amount of the D&D sort of online culture that revolves around what's called white boxing, where it's this mechanic is worse than this other, this class feature, because if you imagine it in a white, flat environment on an endless grid, it's not as good. It's that's why we don't always fight in featureless, flat voids. We do things like fight on a multi-tiered ship on a lake, or we fight going down into a cave where we have to keep descending level by level to get to where we want to go. Like, there is dimensionality. There are things to interact within the environment. It's not just a featureless white void, which makes certain mechanics rise up in their usefulness. Yeah. Because when you just assume a featureless white void and all you're considering is damage per second, things will fall by the wayside. Like a spell that I never thought I would ever take in any of D&D, jump, being a good spell sometimes to have on hand.
I've listened to some real play podcasts where they're like, and I cast jump, and I'm like, you were already a monk. Why did you cast jump on yourself? Like, that just wastes your turn.
It's like in Baldur's Gate 3, because it is this fleshed out world with these elaborate set piece environments, being able to move around them in 3-dimensional space comes up a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, like, even in my like even in my tactician playthrough where I'm min-maxing my paladin so that it's like they're all charisma and they're using warlock features so that they can attack with their charisma, I'm still missing that strength that I used to have. Yeah, I'm sitting there being like, I wish I was stronger, which is like not something that I've said in tabletop RPG, because everyone knows, or at least if you are new to the channel or new to D&D, Dex is king, is what people say all the time for 5th edition, because dexterity controls how much armor you have. If it controls your ranged weapons, which, while aren't inherently superior to some melee weapons, can very easily become so if you build your character right. So it's one of those things where it's like, this is a refreshing thing that like gives bonuses to people who are investing in strength. Because one of the things is like, in 5th edition, there are jumping rules. You don't need an action to jump. It's part of your movement. But you can, no matter how strong you are, you can never jump farther than you have distance, than you have movement speed for that turn. And it's your base speed, not like a flying speed, or a swimming speed or something like that. You can't jump with swimming.
Yeah. My burrowing speed, which I have.
My burrowing speed does not allow me to jump farther.
Bean, I believe that Bean has a burrowing speed.
Oh, I've seen Bean burrow.
I've seen it happen.
Absolutely. But so with Baldur's Gate 3, changing it to I believe one of the playtests kind of touched on this for a little bit, but they didn't give you additional movement. And we panned it appropriately, because one of the new D&D 1 playtests was you jump as a bonus action and you move as far as your strength will allow you if you got a 10-foot running start. And it was just like, okay, so now I'm
wasn't that also
never going to jump.
Wasn't that the one where it was like you had to roll so you could theoretically jump and then not have enough distance to make the jump?
You could theoretically jump and then not have enough movement speed to make the jump, so you just fall into the pit and die.
Because it was just a randomly decided distance. It's like, that's not what we're looking for.
And so with Baldur's Gate 3, unless you wanted to transition.
Well, no, I just wanted to really quick. So in the actual D&D rules, I'm going to have it up on screen here.
Okay.
You can fully read over them, Traveler, if you want to. We're going to kind of like shift through it really quick, because really we're talking about long jump. The Baldur's Gate doesn't really care about high jump so much. There might be some math going on there, but really it assumes you have a running start and you're long jumping. If you click the jump button, that's what it assumes. Oh,
well, there is jump height. Yeah. There is jump height. That is a big thing, especially in exploration. So it is kind of using both. It is Definitely. There is long and up. It is 3-dimensional space at a certain point.
But in the long jump, it says, when you make a long jump, this is in base D&D. When you make a long jump, you cover a number of feet up to your strength score if you move at least 10 feet on foot immediately before the jump. So you have to spend 10 feet to get a running start, and then you can jump up to your strength score. Let's say that is 15. You can jump 15 feet. When you make a standing long jump, you only leap half that distance. Baldur's Gate mostly always assumes you have the running start up. Either way, each foot you clear on the jump costs 1 foot of movement. So you're really just going to the bank and saying, hi, I'd like to exchange my movement for jump movement, and it's a 1-to-1 transaction. There is no way to gain any benefits necessarily in like raw distance on a flat plane. If you just started running, you can't jump any further than you have movement, because it just assumes that you can only spend the 10 feet, and then if you got your 15 feet of jump, if for some reason you had 30 feet, if you had a strength score of 30, it does not let you jump 30 feet, because you would spend 20 of it and run out of movement.
Yeah. And you had to use 10 of it to get to that 20 feet anyways. So, because you have to get a running jump. The other interesting thing that this causes that is one of those like non-serendipitous things where it's just like D&D isn't trying to replicate reality, but it's funny when it does weird stuff. So for instance, falling in 5th edition tabletop counts as using up your movement. So if you fell 50 feet and for whatever reason you were immune to fall damage, or you're a monk or something and you have slow fall, if you have less than 50 feet of movement and you fall 50 feet, you technically cannot move anymore because you used your movement to fall.
Yeah. Even though you just dropped straight down.
Even though you just went whoop and then that was your turn.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So what is, Onog, bring us up to speed, the difference here? What makes Baldur's Gate 3's movement and jumping different from 5th edition, and why do you feel like you're having a better time with it?
So the reason I feel like at least Baldur's Gate 3 rules give you parity, at least with like more dex-based creatures like rogues and monks and people who can like do all these things as bonus actions and stuff, because you have to spend a bonus action, the action economy cries, and you still spend that 10 feet of movement to get that long jump, but it's not you have to move 10 feet, it is you spend 10 feet and you can jump as far as you can jump, which is affected by multiple different mechanics in the game, a lot of which not everyone really understands the math of, because it's affected by your strength, and it's affected by the athletics skill and your proficiency or expertise in athletics. Mm-hmm. And there are multiple magical items that just go this increases your jump distance by 3 feet, or
there's even multiple
1.5 meters, or things like that.
There are multiple like racial abilities, like the Githyanki have a jumping ability. Mm-hmm. There's multiple in Baldur's Gate 3. They've changed a little bit about how some of the class features work, where now it includes a small caveat about how that would impact your jumping. I think the Monk's Step of the Wind changes how their
get a lot of
math
jump
works.
Stuff. Beast Spirit, barbarians get a bunch of jumping stuff, and the important difference though between all of this is when you are using that bonus action to jump, when whatever your jump distance is, it takes that 10 feet away from your movement pool, and then you can jump as far as you can jump, and it doesn't take anything else out of your movement.
I believe
if I can jump 30 feet because I'm very strong and I have the magical boots that make me jump slightly farther, and I use 10 feet of my 30 feet of movement that turn, I can then jump 30 feet, and then I still have 20 feet of movement left.
Exactly. Letting you, for some characters, greatly enhance the amount of movement, the amount of ground you can cover.
Mm-hmm. And especially in strength-based characters, you want to get into the fray. And so that gives that so much more of an edge and so much more benefit. And then, things like the athlete feat aren't useless now. Taking athlete is basically like saying I can cast Misty Step.
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
Because it's just like, no, I can jump so far that I might as well be teleporting. And so it's like all of these other feats that are like in normal D&D, they either don't impact combat at all or not very much. Things like this mild shakeup changes things so much more. This simple rule change makes it so it's like I'm paying attention to how far I can jump, because there are so many things where it's like so many abilities, like monk abilities, or even like the beast barbarians, the true beast barbarians, because they get like at level 6 they get a ribbon ability that lets them jump farther. Those are all like the weakest attributes of these character builds. But if jumping is a thing that you can actively do, that isn't just taking up your movement, that isn't just, oh, I move, and then to move I do a jump, but I still move the same amount of difference. It doesn't feel like I'm actually exerting anything or putting anything forward. So I can have I can have all of the special features that say I can jump as far as I want. In combat, I can't actually exceed any of that information. And so with this, all of those abilities are now useful instead of pointless ribbon abilities.
Yeah, I really have enjoyed it. I've been running a fighter, and even though he's an Eldritch Knight, he's got a high enough strength that I'm able to maneuver around the battlefield so well, in addition to then being able to, cast things like Expeditious Retreat and dashing as my action and jumping as my bonus action. And like, I'm so mobile, I'm able to get in and out of where I want to. And then I'm also able to send the party barbarian in and out of areas that I want them to be in, where she just crashes down in the middle of a group of goblins and swings her axe around, killing all of them in one go. I've really enjoyed the feeling that these high strength characters get of being sort of like like a locomotive, like a rhinoceros, where they just run, they jump and land in combat, and that it's this explosive movement that gets them where they're going. I've really liked that translation.
Yeah, and like I said before, in my like charisma based paladin playthrough, I am missing that strength. I am yearning for the muscle days, because my character just can't shove people as much. They're not that presence on the battlefield anymore. They have their own benefits that I'm exchanging for this, but it actually feels like I have paid a cost. It's not just like in normal tabletop rules where I just go like, my character doesn't shove anyways, and my charisma will be high enough.
Jumping ever in tabletop.
I've never jumped ever. My character can fly. It's like because of all of these different things. Yeah, and it's like, but even though like my charisma is boosted and it like saves me on the save front using those skill checks, it's like I am sad to see it go, which is something I never thought I'd do before.
So the only feedback that I have seen, the only kind of pushback about this system that I've seen from the community at large, and I wanted to hear your thoughts on this, Onog, is there is a subtle, like, obviously there's dragons and magic and wizards, but there is
all of which are real things that we see in our everyday life. Yes.
Oh, of course. But there's a line of believability and of seriousness that you want to try to keep the moment-to-moment stakes of an encounter feeling, gripping and real. And I've seen a few people talking about this system, saying, well, when all of my party is leaping around like bullfrogs, it can kind of bring me out of that. It can take me out of the moment for a second, because why is my party... It's just like we're in a field, but we're jumping at them for some reason, like repeatedly, and it feels a little
going
silly.
Full Achilles on somebody.
It feels a little bit out of character for these series, especially when it's like, why is my heavy armor wearing, great maul holding paladin jumping so far, and my daring rogue is lagging behind it? He weighs 5 times as much as the rogue does. It's weird because he's gaining so much to his movement by using his strength to jump. And so in terms of that kind of verisimilitude, that feeling of reality that you don't want to push too hard or else it breaks and turns into a cartoon. What are your thoughts on that, Onog, with this system? Because if I was just to start using this in my tabletop tomorrow, Do you think we'd all start feeling that? Like, I'm jumping so much, it feels weird to just be leapfrogging around the map.
I think part of that is a different design aspect in the action economy. The reason all these tanks are jumping so much isn't because like jumping is that much more potent. It is like the incentivized play in Baldur's Gate 3. It is the thing that you're supposed to be doing because, like we said, it has all these benefits to it. They made it good and comfortable. The real reason they're jumping so much is because none of these characters have anything to do with their bonus action.
Exactly.
Like a dual wielder, my dual wielding rogue guy, if he's using his bonus action for something other than stabbing somebody, I feel it. My barbarian, if I've already raged, what am I using their bonus action for? Unless they're a frenzy barbarian and we are worshiping at the altar of Chuck, but
Yeah.
but the real answer is none of these people had anything to do with their bonus action before. It's always sad as a DM when somebody goes like, I did my action, cool. And then they're like, okay, what else do you do? And they're like, oh, can I do something else? Like, well, do you have a bonus action? And then watching the player slowly skim their whole character sheet.
Whole sheet, they
and
flip
go,
it over.
oh, the word bonus action never shows up on here because I can't do anything.
I'm playing
like, maybe
a
I can
fighter.
do, I'm playing a fighter, maybe I can do one thing as a bonus action once, but then my bonus action is gone for the rest of the day. And so it's, The real benefit of it is that it's just like, hey, it's something to do with your bonus action. I have shoved more times too, because in Baldur's Gate, shoving is also a bonus action. You can't replace your attacks with a shove. You have to use a bonus action. But ironically enough, I'm shoving more, just because the characters that are strong and would shove, aren't doing anything. So it's like I might as well shove this guy away and give my archer some room.
It kind of goes, am I next to somebody? I'll shove them. Am I not? I will jump towards the nearest person.
It's the give and take, the yin and the yang, the jump and the shove. And that's I think the real thing. And honestly, a lot of power gamers that I've been seeing on Baldur's Gate 3 like build like subreddits and things like that, one of the things they emphasize immediately is like get something to do with your bonus action. Become a warlock, like multi-class into warlock, multi-class into paladin, multi-class into all these things that get spells or abilities that you can use as bonus actions, because having something to do with one of the two things you get to do in a turn, it's almost like that's important in 5th edition.
Almost like
and
that
the
feels
moment
like half your turn,
the moment anyone gets something to do, they will do it. If all you have is a hammer, you're going to hammer in some nails.
Definitely. You have any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, I'm just really excited about Baldur's Gate. I finally got to Act 3, and stuff's getting weird. Like a true D&D campaign should. Stuff's getting weird.
It's getting crazy in there. Well, travelers, what are your thoughts on jumping mechanics? Do you prefer the jumping rules in Tabletop 5th edition, or do you prefer how Baldur's Gate 3 has chosen to translate those rules to a video game? And do you think that D&D should adopt something like that in perhaps an upcoming new edition that they might be theoretically working on if they ever decide to actually do anything new and challenging?
There is a new edition of D&D. It's called Baldur's Gate 3.
It's called Baldur's Gate.
You just need to have a top-end PC to be able to get a hold of it.
I am hand writing down all of the code for Baldur's Gate 3 to run
so that we can implement
tabletop.
it in our tabletop.
Exactly, yes. So let us know your thoughts about it in the comments down below. And remember, if you have any homebrew you'd like us to discuss on the channel, you can comment it down below or send it to us at our email, thecopperfoxinn@gmail.com, or on social media @thecopperfoxinn. If you like what we do here, please give the video a little thumbs up, subscribe, hit the little bell things, and do all this stuff. And we don't have a Patreon, and we're not sponsored by, I don't know,
persons
Bombas or whatever. I don't know. It's whatever people get sponsored by. So whatever you can do helps us out so much. We really appreciate it, travelers. And I think that'll wrap it up for today. So until next time, keep on adventuring.
Bye.